I once told a friend, "It doesn't feel like dating. It feels like applying for a job I don't even want." I never expected dating to be easy after 50, but I didn't expect it to feel like this either. After my divorce, I tried. I did. I downloaded the apps, went on walks, paid for dinners, smiled through the awkward silences, and gave people the benefit of the doubt. And at first, it felt hopeful, like maybe I'd get another shot. But pretty quickly, that hope turned into something else. Not bitterness, not heartbreak, just fatigue. Because it didn't feel like dating anymore. It felt like something transactional, strategic, exhausting, one that asked too much, gave too little, and rarely called back. I'm not speaking for all men, but I'll tell you what I've learned, and maybe you'll hear your truth in it too. Here are 10 reasons dating feels more like work than connection. Every date feels like an interview. There's nothing casual about a first date anymore. I sit down across from her, and before the water even arrives, I'm fielding questions like, what do you do? Where do you live? Are you close with your kids? What happened with your ex? It doesn't feel like two people getting to know each other. It feels like pre-screening for a role I'm not sure I even applied for. She's not listening. She's evaluating. Like she's ticking boxes in her head while I talk. And the worst part? I find myself doing the same thing not because I want to, but because I'm bracing. Bracing for the moment. I say something that doesn't check one of her boxes. We're not connecting. We're interviewing each other with polite smiles. It's not romantic. It's exhausting. And I already have a job. I didn't think finding love would come with another application process. I'm tired of performing. I used to think I had to show up to a date the same way I'd show up to a business pitch. Dress sharp, smile, ask questions, keep the energy high. But here's what no one tells you. After 50, pretending costs more. I don't have the energy or the interest to become a version of myself that fits what she wants to see. And yet, the moment I don't compliment her fast enough, or I pause too long before answering, or I don't ask enough follow-up questions about her dog's Instagram, I get labeled low effort. They say they want honesty, but what they really want is polish, presentation, a man who fits their picture. I'm not jaded. I still care, but I've stopped trying to perform. I want to show up as I am, calm, present, maybe a little slower than I used to be, but real. And if that's not enough, I'm not going to push harder to win a part in someone else's script. I'm expected to lead everything. Where we meet, who confirms the time, what restaurant, who drives, who pays. It's always me. And look, I'm not against leading. I've done it my whole life. In business, in marriage, in fatherhood. But when it comes to dating now, it doesn't feel like leadership. It feels like being project manager of someone else's fantasy. She wants me to plan but also be spontaneous. She wants me to decide but read her mind. She expects me to pay but still be equal partners. And after a while, it stops feeling noble. It starts to feel like no one's showing up for me, just waiting for me to show up for them. A relationship, to me, means mutual effort, mutual thoughtfulness. So when I feel like the only one initiating, suggesting, carrying the emotional and logistical weight of every encounter, I don't feel masculine. I feel used. And I didn't come back into the dating world to carry all of it again, not after everything it took to rebuild myself. The good morning loop wears me down. There was a time when texting felt exciting. A good morning meant someone was thinking of you. Now, it feels like the start of another loop I didn't ask for. She sends a polite, good morning. I respond warm, open, curious. Maybe we exchange a few lines. And then, silence. Or worse, 2 weeks of surface talk. How was your day? Busy, you? Same here. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't build. It just loops. And somehow, if I don't respond fast enough or keep the energy going, I'm the one labeled disinterested. But I'm not texting to entertain. I'm texting to connect. And that kind of connection can't be built on repetition. It's built on depth, and that's something I rarely find anymore. So I started saying less. Not because I'm cold, but because I've run out of ways to say, I'm showing up, without it being mistaken for another empty flirtation. Because when good morning becomes a daily performance, not a real presence, I'd rather have silence. I'm tired of competing with ghosts. I get it. We all come with history. So do we. But what I didn't expect was how often I'd feel like I'm dating against someone who isn't even in the room. Her ex who used to bring flowers, the one who cheated, the one who ruined her ability to trust, the one who set some impossible standard I now have to live up to or fix. She tells me, I'm not ready to open up yet, but still wants me to pursue her like a test based on what someone else broke. And the thing is, I'm not mad about her past. I respect it. I listen. But what no one sees is how tiring it is to carry someone else's damage, quietly, Because while I'm trying to show her who I am, she's still watching for signs of who I'm not. And somewhere in the middle, I stop being a man she's meeting and start becoming a checklist of what her ex wasn't. That's not dating. That's damage control. And I didn't come here to compete with ghosts. I'm tired of being measured by a checklist. Own a house? Emotionally stable? Financially secure? No baggage? Still look good in a button-down shirt? Sometimes I look at her smile politely and I can feel it. She's not really getting to know me. She's evaluating my stats, like I'm a resume, notamon. And sure, I understand standards. I have mine too. But somewhere along the way, dating became less about connection and more about scoring points on an invisible rubric. I once had someone ask me how often I see my adult kids. In the first 5 minutes of conversation, not because she cared, but because she had a rule about men who are too attached to their children. What do I even do with that? I'm not perfect. I don't check every box, but I've lived, I've learned, and I lead a steady life. And I want to be valued for the man I am now, not some imaginary blend of her ex, husband's regrets and her future goals. I'm not here to win. I'm here to connect. If I feel like I'm being interviewed for a role in her life story, I'll excuse myself from the audition. I'm worn out from starting over. It's not that I'm afraid of meeting someone new. It's that I'm tired of starting from zero, telling the same stories about where I grew up, what I do, how the marriage ended, what I learned from it. It's like handing someone my emotional resume every single time. And most days, I just don't have the energy to retell the chapters I've already closed. Because behind every story I share, there's weight. Some of it still hurts. Some of it I'm proud of. But none of it feels easy anymore. It's not just the storytelling. It's the explaining, the clarifying, the defending. I find myself saying things like, I'm not bitter. I still believe in love. I've healed, not because I want to, but because I feel I have to prove I'm dateable again. What I really want is to build forward, to meet someone who sees where I'm going, not just where I've been. Because constantly having to reintroduce myself from scratch, it's not exciting, it's draining. I don't know the new rules, and I'm afraid to offend. Back then, opening the door was respectful. Now, it might be patronizing. Back then, telling someone she looked beautiful was a compliment. Now it might be objectifying. The line keeps shifting and I'm trying to keep up. Not because I'm old-fashioned, but because I was raised to lead with decency. Now, I walk into every date with a warm heart and walk out second-guessing everything I said. Did I come on too strong? Did I not ask enough about her career? Was the joke too dry? Did she think I was mansplaining even though I was just trying to be helpful? It's exhausting, and worse, it makes connection feel impossible. Because when I'm busy watching every word, I stop being present. I stop being real. And then I'm not myself, and neither is she. Dating shouldn't feel like tiptoeing through a minefield. But lately, that's what it's become. I miss being with someone who already knows me. I miss familiarity. The way someone knew I like my coffee black, no sugar, no questions. The way she could tell from one sigh if I'd had a bad day. The way I didn't have to explain why I needed 10 minutes of silence after coming home from work. I miss being understood, without translation. Now, every date feels like a new onboarding process. I find myself rehearsing how to present my quirks, so they sound charming, not weird. I try to filter my thoughts to avoid being misunderstood. And after a while, I don't feel known. I feel watched. There's no rhythm, no shorthand, no inside jokes, just constant effort to be gettable. But what I really crave is someone who gets me already, not because I'm perfect, but because she's willing to sit long enough to notice the small things and care about them. Love, at this age, shouldn't feel like a full-time explanation. It should feel like coming home. I feel like I'm being interviewed for a role I'm not sure I want. Sometimes, I walk away from a date and think, I don't even know if I want this. Not because she was unkind, not because it went badly, but because the whole time, I felt like I was being assessed for a role I'm no longer interested in auditioning for. Savior, provider, fixer, emotional coach. She wants me to lead but not lead too much. To provide but not make her feel dependent. To be soft but not weak. Strong but not controlling. Masculine but not toxic. It's not that I can't navigate those expectations, it's that I don't want to live under them. I want to show up as a whole person, not a role to be cast, not a fantasy to be fulfilled. Flawed, steady, growing, real. And if love today only wants characters, then I'd rather write my own story alone, but free. I didn't stop dating because I gave up on love. I stopped because love started to feel like labor. I still believe in connection. I still believe in showing up with presence. But here's the truth most men won't say. I'm done proving I'm lovable. If she can't feel it, if she needs a performance, I'm not here to convince her. Love shouldn't feel like an interview. like a checklist, like an audition. Love should feel like rest, like quiet confidence, like finally being allowed to be all of who I am without a scorecard. So if you're a man who's felt this quiet fatigue, or a woman who's just now starting to understand it, drop a comment. Love shouldn't feel like a performance, because when love feels like work, most of us will choose peace instead.